Adani Group says short sellers report was calculated attack on India. Adani hits back at Hindenburg, says it made all disclosures. Ackman says banks face too much liability exposure on Adani deal. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily news. So, obviously, the Adani situation is still going on, and they basically issued their defense today. I'll give you the basic gist of it. So, one is they're saying Hindenburg, you are racist. That's basically. The other one is they're saying is you basically twisted the facts and said facts weren't necessarily unknown. So, for example, Hindenburg said, "Hey, Adani, your brother, is running trading scam. Your sister is running, market manipulation scams. You're all big scam, this kind of thing." And their defense is like, well, everyone knew that this was a family business. You didn't say anything new. You're just sort of making and trying to make us look bad. The other defense they're trying to make as well is that courts have already decided said things and already proved that we're not corrupt. The problem is though with that particular argument is if Adani is has close ties with the Indian government, then just because the court sided with said company doesn't necessarily mean that they're completely legit. If you understand what I'm saying. The other one as well is they're trying to make the case that they can't control what individual investors do, and if investors want to just put a whole bunch of money in the market or put a whole bunch of money behind their company, that's up to them, right? So it's not really a great argument either, because obviously then if you're scamming people and then saying, oh well, it's not our fault that people fell for our scam, it's not really the great defense. So we'll see how investors react to this kind of thing. Like I mentioned before, other people in the community have mentioned that they are from India and said that kind of everyone knows that Adani is a scam. And then I guess maybe now it's just more public. So we'll keep an eye on these things. Also, too, going around the world, unfortunately, I was reading the headlines and it seems that there was a drone attack in Iran. It's on a military installation. I don't think there's any casualties as of yet. This is an ongoing investigation, but there was a report that just came out, and it's not great news. A U.S. official is saying that Israel might be behind the attack on the Iran installation. So I can't confirm or deny that, but we'll keep an eye on this thing, and hopefully it doesn't escalate further. That's all I have to say about that. Regarding, say, things that are escalating, so we just finished Lunar New Year here in Asia, and then what happens is basically people go home like a Thanksgiving and spend time with the family. So in China, we're going to keep an eye on whether or not COVID's going to get worse, because essentially everybody went home and spent time with the fam, and we'll see what happens with that. I can tell you here in Korea, this is a true story. This is the first day that we're lifting masks. So we've been having to wear masks everywhere, essentially. However, I think the masks are still going to be required on public transportation and in hospitals, like that kind of situation. But in terms of like retail shopping or going to the gym or yoga, just for example, like we've been having to wear masks at yoga. It was interesting. There was a fascinating read on you can see this here. It's called, say, the big text, big lie. And the basic gist of it was that the way tech companies were different than Wall Street was that people on Wall Street was sort of under the assumption that when you work with someone on Wall Street, it's a business contract, you're a hired gun, and if the money's not there, you're gone, right? Like this idea that this is just a business procedure, right? It's all about money, essentially. The difference is, which was the part that's fascinating, is that for many tech companies, I guess, like say, well, say for example, Google, or you call people Googlers, or you work at Apple or Meta or any kind of startup, is they kind of make you feel like family, and that your work becomes a large part of your identity. And the other difference in tech as well is if you are indeed family, these kind of things, and you're a big and fundamental part of the company, then they can get you to work crazy hours for no pay. For example, when the Elon Musk thing took over Twitter and said, hey, if you're hardcore and you believe in the mission, stay on. And it's interesting because I remember in comments for people who are the Twitter and Tesla pumpers, they say, oh, well, that's so wonderful. I want to sleep on the factory floor, and I want to devote my life to tech and that kind of stuff. And it might sound great in movies and fantasy, these kind of things, but in real life, at the end of the day, you work for a salary and you want to get paid for said work, and working for free just because to be part of a family, yeah, it might sound good on I guess in the movies, but in reality, sort of why they call this a big tech, big lie, is when they just come out and fire you. It turns out there was no family, and they were just using you for, obviously for their own gain. And so this is sort of a wake up call for many people in tech that unfortunately had to learn the hard way that it's a tough world out there. And evidently, as I was saying, the contrast is people on Wall Street sort of already knew that was the bargain when take a job with someone, is that they're there to use you for your for making money, and then if the money's not there, you're out. There was an article here about whether or not Apple is going to be doing their mixed reality headset. Now, earlier articles had said they're definitely going to do it, and then they said they're definitely not going to do it. now this one's like, now they're thinking about it. So I think basically when they run these articles or headlines, that Apple is kind of leaking to see what people and customers' appetite is for a new product launch. Going into recession, it is tough to launch new things, and it's tough to invest in stuff. Now, the only thing that I've heard that's been really, really big lately, essentially investment in AI, as we've all been hearing about AI. It's funny, one person wrote in the comments recently that they have sort of AI fatigue. But so, it's not that everything shuts down in the country. There is still opportunities. And I'll give you another example of stuff that's going on, because we hear about layoffs, and I just mentioned about, like, say, the tech's big lie. There's going to be some legacy companies. So we talk about Ford, like insurance, airlines would be like another one, to where they need to revamp their old computer systems. So they are indeed going to need to hire people to do that. Another one, for example, there was a headline recently where Boeing is hiring people to build more planes and stuff. So I think there's always going to be a job. However, the jobs are going to be more scarce, and it's not just like they're going to be throwing wads of cash at everyone. So that was something that people got kind of used to in the era of free money, where you were just paying people ludicrous amounts of money because everyone was doing it, and that sort of set the market price high, right? But when you go into a period when people are and companies are less willing to make these kind of investments, it's going to be a little bit tougher. And so you got to be more flexible and understand where the opportunities are. So that's why we talk about this stuff on the channel. Regarding opportunities, it seems that Bed Bath and Beyond is indeed going bankrupt. There's this report here that there's essentially empty shelves at these kind of stores. And it's interesting. Someone was mentioning in comments that I think they lived in Arizona, something like that, where they still do go to the Bed Bath and Beyond. However, one of I guess the big attractors was that they used to run a bunch of coupons and get people into the store. If this indeed goes bankrupt, which looks like it's going to, I guess the winners are going to be your Walmart, your Target, and then probably your Amazon. So they're just running out of players in the world of sort of who competes in this kind of stuff. For young people who have never seen this kind of thing, they just always expect a bull market and everything to come back. And I think this sort of like the Bed Bath and Beyond story is a good example of not everything comes back, right? That things fundamentally change. When Amazon came out, they put a lot of stores out of business. Like I remember, for example, Kmart was really, really popular, and I can't remember like what year Kmart went bankrupt, but they did. They don't exist anymore. The same way that like Sears doesn't really exist anymore, or like a Mervyn's, if you guys remember these kind of stores. So things do change, and certainly. This matters when you're raising interest rates and it slows activity down for everyone. We just talked about yesterday how people aren't making their car payments and the bank's coming to get your car essentially. So do be aware that these things are happening. I've mentioned all along that the big companies like your Googles or your Microsofts or like your Metas, may get broken up. I've mentioned that quite a long time. That was a real concern. What's interesting though is that if it were to happen, this was saying, it was an article about. Google gets broken up, like who would buy said parts? The problem is there's only a couple companies that could do it. So like if say Google gets broken up, then Microsoft would come in and buy some of said parts, but then Microsoft has a monopoly essentially. So we have a real problem in our whole society of big companies buying up all the little ones, to where it's very difficult for us to break up that system, right? Because we don't necessarily want to hurt our own companies. It's a real thing. Google is a legitimate company, but the question becomes, do they hurt innovation when there isn't really much competition for Google? I remember a time, and this is back in talking about search engines, when it was like Lycos. I think that was the dog one. I can't. I don't remember exactly. It was like Lycos, and then Yahoo used to be a real thing. I think Excite was another one, and I could probably pull up a list of all the 1990s, browsers, but there used to be search engine, I should say, not even browser, because there used to be a browser called Netscape as well. For those of you who are old enough, you remember what Netscape is. But there used to be a lot of competition in this field, but it's tough. The winner wins out, and then everyone else then essentially starts a small company and then wants to sell to basically sell to Google. And I've had friends who sell to Google or sell the Microsoft or Facebook, that kind of thing. And this is part of the culture in Silicon Valley / California is you start up a small company and you sell it to someone else. Another company that was buying up a lot of little companies was actually Snapchat was buying up a bunch of ones that I had friends who were involved in these kind of things as well. So I'm just sharing with you. It's interesting because basically the gist of it is if you break up Google, what will be there to replace it. The one development that was fascinating was the Toyota's got a new CEO, and he's going to be on the PR tour, of course. And essentially, what they're saying that they can tell everyone is that they think their strategy is better than say Tesla's strategy, in that they don't think EV adoption is going to be as fast as people think. Mostly because of the charging network isn't as developed as people say it is, and also too because of costs. So evidently they're going to stick with their hybrid strategy. However, they are going to tap into EVs a bit. They mentioned, it was actually interesting, a Lexus EV. I have not seen a one, but I remember when I was a kid, Lexus used to be like really, really cool. I guess they kind of fallen off in terms of like being super cool, but that used to be like the really, really hot car to get. I don't think India, but I don't think Toyota's out of the running by any stretch. I don't know. It's funny because Tesla bulls always like to say like, Tesla's the only car company in the world. And as someone wrote in the comments recently as well, I always laugh because it's like it's just not true. Like for example, someone mentioned comments that Mercedes has an EV coming out as well, and I just saw a report that Audi has one that was like a prototype announced. So I do understand with the Tesla bulls that the other car makers are behind. I get that part, but they can catch up very, very quickly. This is a long running game, right? So maybe it's going to take them 2 years, but it's only a couple of years, and then suddenly 5-10 years from now you got everyone's making this said thing. So I think that's going to be a one. One thing I want to mention too, also with the sort of EV thing, I want to make this clear, and I think it's an important point if people don't understand this, is that oftentimes the roads in USA are paid for by taxes on say gas and these kind of things. So if you remove, say for example, gasoline tax in states, how are you going to pay for said roads? There's a high chance that there will maybe some sort of EV tax in the future, and so it will make owning these things even more expensive than people realize. So I don't think that's crazy stuff to talk about. I'm just talking about just practical dollars and cents. And also too, the EV market still remains a bit small. One thing that's been going on recently, I'm sure you guys know, is like the Tesla stock has been running up like crazy. It had its best week since May 2013, so like the best week in 10 years. We'll see if this holds up. I remain bearish, but that's just me, and I'm fine if I'm wrong, and I'm fine if I'm right. I just report what's going on with the thing. But we'll see what happens this week if it does a hold. There was a news, and it's like really every week you probably report this, but and then the reason I mentioned it is Fox News again, because I like to check what Fox is saying every now and then. But they're even reporting that there was a Tesla fire. The headlines here: Tesla spontaneously catches fire on California freeway, officials say, and took Sacramento firefighters 6,000 gallons of water. There's the pictures of it there, and this is going to be an ongoing problem regarding EVs and the batteries that just catch on fire because they're hard to put out. Now we've had discussions on this on the channel before, and some people who are more adept in engineering stuff like that said perhaps in the future we'll come up with a better way to build these things. But at the moment, this fire risk is a real thing. Also, too, the Tyrene police situation. So I saw the body cam footage for myself. I always have the same sort of response to these kind of things, right? Let the facts come out and justice be done. I don't care what you look like, anything like that. Justice should be done. The other thing, too, that I have in response to this is police officers need to be trained to where if you're going to handcuff someone, you handcuff them, and that's it. Nothing else needs to be done. You need to try to keep emotions out of it. Just there's not much else to say about it. If you saw the footage for yourself, it's not good, and I'm not going to show anything, but it's not a good situation at all. Yeah, so I just we do need better training. That's all I have to say. But more of on a positive note. And I just did a DNA story myself on my channel, and then you guys can watch it if you like. But there was a girl in Rhode Island, and she went to the police and was asking to test a cookie Santa Claus that had bitten to prove whether or not Santa Claus is real. This is a true story. It's funny, and this is the governor of Rhode Island. I went to school in Rhode Island, and but she sent the cookie and it had like some carrots. So like wrote a handwritten letter. It's like is Santa Claus real, and does he really does he really ride on a reindeer? This kind of thing. And the the Rhode Island Department of Health wrote a response regarding the DNA test of whether or not Santa is real, and I want to read the response to you guys because I think it's really clever. So this is it. And again, we're testing a DNA on cookie sample whether or not Santa is real. The good news is that we did not find any evidence of common food-borne illnesses in the cookies. So whoever ate them is safe, right? So the cookies are not poisonous. You're okay there, Santa. The lab was able to modify their methods for testing carrots in this important case. Curiously, they found presence DNA matching closely with Rangifer tenrandus, more commonly known as reindeer. So, so evidently the reindeer ate the carrots. While our laboratory was able to apply the most current and technologically advanced methods to solving this case, we aren't able to definitively confirm or refute the presence of Santa at your home. We all agree that something magical may be at play, so we encourage you to remain curious and look forward to seeing your application to the Rhode Island Department of Health, Health State Health Laboratory someday in the future, so that you might be able to help us solve this case and others. We thank the Cumberland Police Department for their partnership on this case. So I just cry a little bit because I think this is the perfect response to to a kid that asks these kind of questions. And I was a professor for years, and the best response, for kids is you should go to school and you should learn for yourself how DNA works and how we do the testing, and you can, find the truth of the matter. And I think that's just the best answer to give kids. And this is sort of, what I try to do on this channel. I mean, one is you for this kind of stuff is you need to have some magic in the world, for kids, and also to not make fun of them, right? And because we laugh about it because it's funny, but it's funny because it's cute, because that's exactly how a kid would think is and how they should think is. I think there's this belief, is Santa real or not? I know we have this technology with DNA. Let's find out. And essentially, you encourage the kid to please do find out. And when you get older, please apply to this job, and you may be able to find out as well. So. And I made a video about DNA recently. You guys can watch that as well. I'm so sorry I cry a little bit. But thanks again for spending time with us every day on the channel. We do the daily news. I try my best to cover everything and give you honest opinion on stuff. And you have to have a little bit of sense of humor about these things as well, because the world is hard to read sometimes, and there's so much crazy stuff going on every day. And this is sort of why we were here, to help each other and understand. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.